Sarah Chen sat quietly in NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Station, sipping her third cup of coffee. The night shift was always quiet, just the way she liked it. The soft hum of computers and occasional beeping of monitors filled the room. Everything was normal, until it wasn't. At exactly 3:27 a.m. Eastern Time, every single monitor in the facility started blinking. Sarah nearly spilled her coffee as she rushed to check the readings. The incoming signal was unlike anything she had ever seen before. "This can't be right," she muttered, double-checking the numbers. The signal was coming from just beyond Pluto's orbit, but its pattern was too perfect to be natural. Her hands trembled as she reached for the phone to call her supervisor. Within an hour, the facility was buzzing with activity. Dr. James Morrison, the head of Deep Space Communications, stood behind Sarah's chair, watching the data stream across her screen. "Look at these sequences," Sarah pointed at the screen. "They're following mathematical patterns. Prime numbers, Fibonacci sequence, and is that pi?" Dr. Morrison nodded slowly. "Whatever this is, it's artificial. Someone out there is trying to get our attention." The news spread quickly. Similar monitoring stations across the globe confirmed they were receiving the same signal. China's space agency reported it. Then Russia's. Then Europe's. Within hours, every major space monitoring facility on Earth was focused on this single, mysterious transmission. At NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C., the world's top scientists gathered for an emergency meeting. The room was tense as Dr. Morrison presented the findings. "The signal contains more than just mathematical sequences," he explained, pointing to his presentation. "There's a message embedded within it. Our computers are working on decoding it right now." As if on cue, his phone buzzed. The color drained from his face as he read the message. "We've decoded it," he announced, his voice barely a whisper. "It's in multiple formats. Mathematical symbols, binary code, and what appears to be an attempt at basic English." The room fell silent as he displayed the decoded message on the main screen. "URGENT, assistance required. Fully TSTURINDD. HYPERDURVIFAILUR. STLRVE NINOME NULN AP PRO ECHING. Human HELP needed. Coordinates ATTH. ET." Questions erupted around the room. Why humans? Why would an advanced civilization capable of interstellar travel need our help? The confusion only grew when they analyzed the attached coordinates. The alien fleet was massive. 15 ships, each larger than Earth's largest aircraft carriers. They were stranded just beyond Pluto, their advanced technology rendered useless by some mysterious malfunction. But the most puzzling part was the specific request for human assistance. The message repeatedly emphasized that only humans could help them, though it didn't explain why. As news of the signal spread, the world's reaction was mixed. Some people panicked, while others celebrated. Religious leaders debated the implications, while military commanders assessed potential threats. In the midst of this chaos, Dr. Morrison made another discovery. The stellar phenomenon mentioned in the message was a massive solar flare, unlike anything ever recorded. According to the aliens' calculations, it would reach their position in exactly 30 days. The clock was ticking. Humanity had 1 month to figure out how to reach the stranded fleet and help them, whatever that help might entail. As the sun rose over NASA headquarters, one thing became clear. This was humanity's first real contact with alien life, and they were asking for our help. The question wasn't just whether we could help them, but why. Out of all the civilizations in the galaxy, they had called upon humanity to be their saviors. The greatest adventure in human history was about to begin, and no one was prepared for what they would discover about themselves along the way. The United Nations Security Council chamber had never been so crowded. World leaders from every major nation sat shoulder to shoulder, their usual political differences forgotten in the face of this unprecedented situation. Admiral David Chen, now in charge of the newly formed First Contact Response Team, stood at the podium. Behind him, a large screen showed images of the alien fleet. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady despite the pressure, "we've received more detailed communications from the alien fleet. What they've told us is surprising." The room fell silent as he continued. "Their civilization is far more advanced than ours. They have technology we can't even dream of. But that's precisely why they need us." On the screen, a new image appeared, a comparison between alien and human technology. The alien systems were sleek, automated, and completely digital. Next to them were Earth's primitive mechanical systems with buttons, levers, and manual controls. Dr. Emily Rodriguez, a leading engineering expert, stepped forward to explain. "The aliens have become so dependent on their advanced technology that they've lost the ability to think. Simply, they don't know how to fix things without computers. They don't understand mechanical solutions." Murmurs filled the room. It seemed almost impossible. Advanced aliens needing help from primitive humans. "Their ships," Admiral Chen continued, "are perfectly designed. Too perfect, in fact. When their main systems failed, they had no backup plans, no manual overrides, no way to make emergency repairs. But we humans, we've been fixing broken machines since the Industrial Revolution." The next hour was spent discussing the proposed rescue mission. They needed engineers, mechanics, welders, and problem solvers. People who understood the basics of machinery and could think creatively under pressure. In a workshop at NASA's main facility, Jake Martinez, a mechanic from Texas, demonstrated exactly why humans were perfect for this job. He had been examining the schematics the aliens sent. "Look here," he said, pointing to a complex engine diagram. "They'd got all these fancy systems, but no simple mechanical backups. It's like having a car with no spare tire, no jump-start cables, not even a manual way to open the hood." Teams were quickly assembled from around the world. A Russian submarine engineer who had once fixed a nuclear reactor with spare parts. A Japanese robotics expert known for her innovative mechanical solutions. An Indian mechanic famous for keeping ancient trains running with makeshift repairs. But not everyone was convinced this was a good idea. In the corner of the UN chamber, General Sarah Thompson voiced her concerns. "What if this is a trap?" she asked. "What if they're luring us out there?" Admiral Chen had an answer ready. "The aliens took a huge risk revealing their vulnerability to us. They're trusting us with their lives. Besides, they shared enough of their technology in these transmissions to prove they could easily defeat us if they wanted to. They genuinely need our help." As the meeting concluded, a plan was formed. Earth would send its best problem solvers, not its most advanced scientists, but its most creative fixers. People who understood the fundamentals of machinery, who could improvise solutions, who weren't afraid to get their hands dirty. The aliens had sent more details about the approaching solar flare. It would be massive enough to destroy their ships if they couldn't move in time. Earth had 28 days left to launch the rescue mission. As the chosen team members began their crash course in space travel protocols, news spread across the globe. Humanity's supposed weakness, its primitive technology, had become its greatest strength. Sometimes, it seemed, the simplest solutions were the best ones. The stage was set. Humanity's first interstellar rescue mission would launch in just 2 weeks. No one knew exactly what they would find out there, but one thing was certain. The universe was about to learn why you should never underestimate human ingenuity. The launch site at Cape Canaveral buzzed with activity in the pre-dawn hours. 3 modified space shuttles stood ready on their launch pads, humanity's best hope for reaching the stranded alien fleet in time. Jake Martinez adjusted his spacesuit, still amazed that he, a simple mechanic from Texas, was about to make history. Around him, the other team members performed their final checks. Dr. Emily Rodriguez tested her tablet containing the alien schematics, while Nikolai Petrov, the Russian engineer, double-checked his specialized toolkit. "Remember," Admiral Chen's voice crackled through their headsets. "You have 14 days to reach the fleet. That leaves 14 days to fix their ships before the solar flare hits." The launches went perfectly, one shuttle after another lifting off into the bright Florida sky. As Earth shrank behind them, the team used the flight time to study the latest transmissions from the alien fleet. 7 days into their journey, they got their first visual of the alien ships. Even from a distance, they were breathtaking. Each vessel gleamed like polished silver, their designs more like living art than spacecraft. "They're beautiful," whispered Yuki Tanaka, the Japanese robotics expert, as their shuttle approached the largest ship. "But beauty won't save them from that solar flare." The docking procedure was tense. Human technology had to connect with alien systems that were millions of years more advanced. Yet somehow, the simple mechanical docking rings worked perfectly. The moment of first contact arrived. The airlock cycled, and the human team found themselves face to face with their first aliens. The beings stood nearly 8 feet tall, their skin a pale blue color that seemed to shimmer. Their large eyes studied the humans with obvious curiosity. The alien leader stepped forward. Thanks to their advanced translation technology, its words came through clearly in English. "We welcome you, humans, though we admit your appearance is more primitive than we expected." Jake couldn't help but chuckle as he looked at the aliens' sleek environmental suits, then at his own bulky spacesuit. "Sometimes primitive gets the job done," he replied. The aliens led them to their engine room. The human team fell silent at the sight. The technology was incredible, a fusion of crystalline structures and energy fields that seemed to defy physics. But now it all sat dark and lifeless. "Show us your repair methods," one alien engineer requested, holding up a complex scanning device. Jake pulled out a simple wrench from his toolkit. "First, we need to see what's broken. Sometimes you have to use your hands to feel the problem." The aliens watched in horror as the humans began their inspection the old-fashioned way, touching, tapping, listening, and even smelling various components. "Your methods are disturbing," an alien engineer commented as Nikolai used a rubber mallet to test a crystal's resonance. Dr. Rodriguez looked up from her tablet. "According to these readings, your main power crystal is cracked. In your culture, that means replacing the entire system. But on Earth, we've learned to repair instead of replace." The aliens seemed skeptical, but they had no choice. The approaching solar flare would destroy their fleet without functioning engines. As the human team spread out across the massive engine room, they discovered more problems. The aliens' reliance on perfect technology meant they had no backup systems, no manual controls, and no way to bypass damaged components. "We need to create manual overrides," Yuki announced, already sketching designs. "Simple mechanical systems that can work even if the main computers fail." The aliens watched with a mixture of curiosity and concern as the humans began their work. To them, it looked like cavemen trying to repair a quantum computer. But as the first day of repairs ended, they noticed something strange. Small sections of their dead systems were beginning to hum with life again. Perhaps these primitive humans knew something after all. But with the solar flare approaching rapidly, would their simple solutions be enough to save the fleet? The alien engineers watched in absolute shock as Jake Martinez pulled out a roll of duct tape from his toolkit. Their translator struggled to find words for this strange, silver material. "This is a temporary fix," Jake explained, using the tape to seal a leaking coolant line. "It'll hold until we can make proper repairs." "Impossible," the lead alien engineer, Zix 427, declared. "That primitive material cannot possibly contain our advanced cooling substance." But to everyone's surprise, the leak stopped. The aliens crowded around, scanning the tape with their devices, unable to understand how something so simple could work so well. Meanwhile, Dr. Rodriguez and Yuki had made an important discovery. They stood before a massive holographic display, pointing at the ship's system diagrams. "Look here," Dr. Rodriguez said, "their entire network depends on perfect conditions. One small problem causes the whole system to shut down. There's no redundancy, no backup systems. Nikolai wiped sweat from his forehead as he worked on a manual bypass system. In Russian submarines, we always have backup for backup, even backup for backup of backup. These aliens, they only know perfect way. They never plan for imperfect situation. The human team worked tirelessly, implementing what they called Earth-style fixes. They installed manual valves, created mechanical overrides, and set up backup systems using parts from their own shuttles. The aliens' horror gradually turned to fascination. They watched as Yuki reprogrammed their systems to accept manual controls, while Jake and his team installed physical levers and gauges throughout the engine room. But why would you need physical controls when computers are more precise? Asked one young alien engineer. Because, Jake replied while tightening a bolt, computers can fail. When they do, you need a way to control things with your own hands. A breakthrough came on their third day of repairs. The humans had created a hybrid system, combining the aliens' advanced technology with simple mechanical backups. When they tested it on one of the smaller systems, it worked perfectly. It's like teaching a supercomputer to accept input from a bicycle pump. Dr. Rodriguez joked, but the aliens didn't understand the humor. The most dramatic moment came when they tackled the main power crystal. The crack was spreading, and the aliens insisted it was impossible to repair. Their solution would have been to replace the entire crystal, a process that would take months they didn't have. Instead, Jake proposed something radical. We're going to stabilize it the same way we fix cracked engine blocks on Earth. The human team carefully drilled tiny holes at the ends of the crack to prevent it from spreading further. Then, using a modified version of Earth-based ceramic repair compounds, they sealed the crack. The aliens were certain it would fail. But when they powered up the system, the crystal held. Its efficiency was only at 85%, but as Nikolai pointed out, 85% of something is better than 100% of nothing. By the end of the fourth day, the aliens had started taking notes on human repair techniques. They were particularly fascinated by the concept of jerry-rigging, making temporary repairs with available materials. Your species thinks differently. Zix 427 admitted to Admiral Chen during the daily progress report. You see solutions where we see only problems. You find ways to make imperfect things work. The human team had successfully repaired about 40% of the critical systems, but time was running out. The solar flare was now just 7 days away, and they still had more than half of the fleet to fix. As Jake looked at their progress chart, he knew they needed to work faster. We need to teach them to fish, he said suddenly. What do you mean? Dr. Rodriguez asked. We can't fix everything ourselves in time. We need to teach the aliens how to make repairs the human way. It's time to run Repair Workshop 101 for our blue friends. A loud alarm echoed through the alien fleet. Dr. Rodriguez rushed to the main control room, where holographic displays showed a mass of swirling solar energy headed their way. The solar flare, she breathed. It's moving faster than we calculated. Zix 427's normally blue skin turned pale. Our most advanced sensors show it will arrive in 4 days, not 7 as originally predicted. The news spread quickly through the fleet. Jake gathered the human team for an emergency meeting in their makeshift workshop. Tools and spare parts lay scattered across tables, evidence of their round-the-clock repair efforts. We've only fixed 60% of the critical systems, Yuki reported, her usual calm voice showing signs of stress. We need at least 3 more days to finish the essential repairs. Nikolai paced the room, thinking hard. We must change plans. We cannot fix everything. We must focus on what keeps ships alive and moving. The human team quickly reorganized their strategy. They split into smaller groups, each focused on vital systems. Engines, shields, and life support. Everything else would have to wait. Jake started training sessions with the alien engineers, teaching them emergency repair techniques. At first, the aliens struggled to understand the concept of improvised fixes. No, Jake explained to a confused alien engineer. Don't wait for the computer to analyze the problem. Listen to the sound of the engine. Feel the vibrations. Your senses can tell you what's wrong faster than any scanner. In another section of the ship, Dr. Rodriguez made a disturbing discovery. The approaching solar flare was even more powerful than they thought. The partially repaired shields might not hold. We need to strengthen the shields, she announced during the next briefing. But we don't have time to fix the main shield generators on every ship. That's when Yuki had an idea. What if we link the ships together? Share shield power between vessels, like a network. The aliens had never considered this. Their ships were designed to operate independently, each system perfectly self-contained. The idea of sharing power seemed chaotic and dangerous to them. It's like jumping a dead car battery, Jake explained. Sometimes you need to borrow power from something else to survive. As they worked to implement this plan, more alarms sounded. The solar flare had created a wave of radiation that hit their position early. Several partially repaired systems began to fail. The aliens panicked, but the humans stayed calm. Years of dealing with disasters and makeshift repairs had taught them how to think under pressure. Yuki, reroute power through the backup systems we installed. Dr. Rodriguez shouted. Nikolai, get those manual coolant pumps running. Jake, we need emergency patches on those shield emitters now. The aliens watched in amazement as the humans worked through the crisis. There was no lengthy analysis, no complex calculations, just quick thinking, fast action, and trust in their instincts and experience. Even more surprising was how the humans dealt with failure. When one solution didn't work, they immediately tried another. They didn't waste time lamenting the failed attempt. Humans are remarkable. Zix 427 observed to another alien officer. They turn chaos into methodology. They create order from disorder, not by eliminating the disorder, but by working with it. As the day ended, they had managed to stabilize the situation. But the solar flare was still coming, now just 3 days away. The linked shield system was only partially complete, and several ships still had critical systems needing repair. Jake looked at his tired team. They had been working for almost 20 hours straight. Get some rest, he ordered. Tomorrow, we need to do the impossible. Dr. Rodriguez checked their latest calculations. Even if we finish all repairs in time, we'll only have one chance to power up all systems and escape the flare's path. Then, Nikolai said with grim determination, we must not miss that chance. The fate of 15 ships and thousands of alien lives now depended on whether human ingenuity could once again overcome impossible odds. Solar flare approaching. Impact in 6 hours. The warning echoed through every ship in the fleet. Red emergency lights flashed everywhere as both humans and aliens rushed to their positions. This was the moment of truth. Jake Martinez stood at the main engine control panel, which now looked like a strange mix of alien technology and Earth-style controls. Sweat dripped down his face as he checked every gauge and meter they had installed. All manual bypasses are ready, he reported into his communicator. Across the fleet, other team members gave similar confirmations. Dr. Rodriguez monitored the linked shield system from the command center, while Yuki and Nikolai supervised the emergency backup systems they had installed. 5 hours until impact. Zix 427 approached Jake with unusual humility. The fate of our entire species may depend on your primitive solutions. Are you certain they will work? Jake tightened a loose valve before answering. Honestly, these repairs aren't pretty. They're not perfect. But they don't need to be perfect. They just need to work. Suddenly, alarms blared even louder. Dr. Rodriguez's voice came through everyone's communicators. The flare just accelerated. We have less than 3 hours. The news sent shockwaves through the fleet. The aliens began to panic, their carefully ordered minds struggling to deal with the chaos. But the humans remained focused. Start the power-up sequence now. Admiral Chen ordered from the command ship. We can't wait any longer. This was the riskiest part. They had to power up 15 massive ships with jury-rigged repairs and hope nothing failed. One mistake could cause a chain reaction that would destroy the entire fleet. Jake began the sequence on his ship, starting manual power transfer. Now, the engine room hummed to life. Lights flickered as power flowed through both alien circuits and human bypasses. The repaired crystal pulsed with energy, its crack held together by Earth-style repairs. Engine 1 stable, Jake reported. Moving to Engine 2. Around him, alien engineers followed the procedures the humans had taught them. They checked physical gauges instead of relying solely on computers. They listened for unusual sounds. They used their hands to feel for vibrations. Warning. Power spike in Section 7. Yuki's voice crackled through the comm, rerouting through backup circuits. Nikolai responded immediately. Hold together, you beautiful piece of junk. The next 2 hours were the most intense of their lives. Systems failed and were restarted. Emergency repairs were made on the spot. The humans moved with desperate efficiency, using everything from spare parts to duct tape to keep the ships running. 1 hour to impact. Dr. Rodriguez watched as the massive solar flare approached on their screens. It was beautiful and terrifying. A wall of plasma that could vaporize their ships in seconds. Shields at maximum power, she announced. All ships linked. Engine power at 90% and holding, Jake reported. All backup systems online, came Yuki's voice. Emergency protocols standing by, added Nikolai. Admiral Chen took a deep breath. All ships, prepare for emergency jump. Coordinates locked. We'll have one chance at this. The fleet began to move. 15 massive ships, powered by a combination of highly advanced alien technology and human improvisation, started their escape maneuver. 30 minutes to impact. The engines roared. Warning lights flashed everywhere. The linked shields glowed as the first waves of solar radiation hit them. Hold together, Jake whispered to his ship. Just hold together. The fleet picked up speed. Behind them, the solar flare filled their view screens, a tsunami of stellar energy rushing toward them. 10 minutes. Every ship groaned under the strain. The humans' repairs were being pushed to their absolute limits. 5 minutes. The moment of truth had arrived. Would human ingenuity prove enough to save these advanced aliens, or had they all come this far only to fail? Admiral Chen's voice came through one final time. All ships, jump now. A brilliant flash of light filled the view screens as the fleet made its emergency jump. For a terrifying moment, no one knew if they had escaped in time. Then, one by one, the ship's sensors came back online. Position confirmed. Dr. Rodriguez shouted, checking their coordinates. We're safe. We made it. Cheers erupted throughout the fleet. Humans and aliens celebrated together, their differences forgotten in the joy of survival. Jake Martinez sat down heavily in the engine room, exhausted but grinning. Not bad for a bunch of primitive humans, he said to Zix-427, who stood nearby looking at the sensor readings in disbelief. Impossible, the alien engineer muttered. By all our calculations, these repairs should not have worked. And yet, he gestured at the functioning engines, the hybrid systems, and the mechanical bypasses that had saved their lives. 1 week later, the fleet held a formal ceremony. The remaining repairs could wait. This was time for recognition and reflection. The great hall of the command ship was filled with both species. Admiral Chen stood before the gathered crowd. Behind him, the human repair team lined up proudly. They still looked out of place among the elegant aliens with their oil-stained uniforms and worn tools. The alien high commander stepped forward. His voice carried through the translator to everyone present. We called to humans for help, thinking we needed their primitive understanding of mechanical systems. We were wrong. A murmur went through the crowd as he continued. We needed much more than that. We needed their creativity, their adaptability, their ability to function in chaos. Most importantly, We needed their remarkable way of thinking. Dr. Rodriguez was presented with copies of alien scientific databases. Yuki received access to their advanced engineering archives. Nikolai was given schematics of their propulsion systems, but the biggest surprise came for Jake. "We would like to establish a permanent exchange program," the High Commander announced. "Human engineers and mechanics will teach our people what you call practical engineering. In return, we will share our advanced technology." The announcement caused excitement among both species. Already, alien engineers were implementing human-style backup systems across their fleet. They had learned that perfection could be a weakness, and redundancy was not inefficient but essential. 3 months later, Jake stood in a classroom on the alien's homeworld. A group of young alien engineers watched as he took apart a simple combustion engine. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution," he told them, holding up a wrench. "Technology can fail, but human ingenuity never does." Back on Earth, Dr. Rodriguez led a team combining alien and human technology. Their first project, developing new spacecraft that merged the best of both worlds. Advanced alien systems backed up by reliable mechanical controls. Nikolai and Yuki traveled between Earth and the alien worlds, teaching and learning. They helped establish what became known as the human approach to engineering, a new philosophy that valued both high technology and basic mechanical understanding. In the Alien Council chambers, a new saying became popular: "When faced with an impossible problem, ask how a human would solve it." 1 year after the rescue, Jake received a package from 6427. Inside was a roll of duct tape, mounted like a precious artifact, with a plaque that read, "Sometimes primitive is perfect." The story of how humans saved an advanced alien fleet spread throughout the galaxy. Other species, hearing the tale, began to look at Earth differently. They had expected to find primitives struggling with basic technology. Instead, they found innovators who could solve problems in ways their advanced computers had never imagined. As Jake liked to say when telling the story, "The aliens thought they needed our primitive technology. What they really needed was the human spirit, our ability to look at any problem and say, 'We'll find a way.'" And across the galaxy, a new respect grew for the species that could fix a spaceship with duct tape and determination.